everybody, and welcome back to Howrse. A new test session opened up on preprod a few days ago, and with it came some changes to an already existing trophy. And this update has caused, I should say the news of this update, because obviously it's not yet on the game, it has caused quite a bit of a stir, because the requirements for this trophy, as it already exists on the live server, to me are already difficult as it is, and with this change it's going to be made even more difficult. I think personally for a lot of players it's going to be more difficult. So I wanted to talk about this change. I'll go through the changelog on preprod, I'll explain it, talk about which trophy specifically this update is affecting, any issues with it, and possible suggestions for making it better. Obviously, usual disclaimer, this is pre-prod. There's no guarantee this will be implemented on the live server. If it does, then they might implement it a little bit differently. So maybe they'll take some of our feedback into account and make some tweaks to it if they do actually decide to, add this trophy to the live server. So let's get started by reading the changelog. The Rosettes trophy has changed. In order to standardize the way the trophies work, we've decided to change the operation and name of the Rosettes per Horse trophy. Here are the changes we've made. We've changed the trophy name to Champion Breeder, changed the trophy description to breed a horse who's won X number of rosettes, changed the trophy category to competitions breeding farm. Let's halt there. The trophy, let's look at the trophies page. This is the live server. If you were to open up your trophies page right now on the game and follow along with me, your trophies would look like this, with different tier levels, obviously, depending. So you have the Rosettes trophy, win X number of rosettes in general. This trophy, the update is not touching this trophy. It will remain the same. The trophy that we are looking at that will change with this update, if it goes into effect, is the one right below it. Rosettes per horse, win X number of rosettes with the same horse. If this update goes live, okay, this is on pre-prod, you can see that the Rosettes trophy is still there, it's untouched, but the Rosettes per horse trophy is now changed to Champion Breeder, and the requirement is to breed a horse who won X number of rosettes. This is the only trophy or feature involving rosettes that is being affected with this update. Okay, let's look at what all that actually means. So you will need to be the breeder of a horse who won the rosettes to progress in this trophy. Rosettes earned by horses on another player's farm, but for which you are the breeder, count towards your trophy. On the other hand, the rosettes earned by horses from your farm, but not born there, will count for the trophy of the player who bred them. The change is also retroactive. Horses that you bred and then sold will earn you points in this trophy. Please note that the trophy gauges will be changed accordingly. If you gain thresholds with this change, you will receive points and gifts as normal. If you end up with a lower trophy than you had before, we will not reduce your gift gauge. Okay. The big changes with this update. Big change number one, you now need to be the breeder, the listed breeder of that horse. If right now on the live server for the past 5 months or however long you've been working on this Rosettes per Horse trophy, let's say if you bought a skiller prep or an already skilled horse for this trophy, it will no longer count for this trophy. It will still give you points for the Rosettes trophy, so you can still keep using that purchased horse for this trophy. You can still win rosettes in general with the purchased horse. You can still get points in the, what other rosette features do we have? The monthly rosettes ranking, the best horses rosette ranking. You can still keep winning rosettes with the purchased horse for those features, just not for this particular trophy. That's big change number one. It has to be a horse that you bred. Big change number two, any horses, homebred horses that you sold, if those horses are getting rosette wins on another player's account, they will count for your trophy, because it does say horses bred and then sold will earn you points. That is a huge change, not just for this trophy, but for the game in general, because off the top of my head, the only other instance I can think of where sold horses affect your account are the Solar Divine horses, Earth and Moon. Earth gives birth to Moon, and whenever Moon celebrates a birthday, Earth will give you passes. Even if you sold Moon because he is a divine that can be sold, So long as the new player is aging him up every day and Moon still celebrates a birthday, Earth will give you the passes. It won't give the new player passes because they don't own Earth. Earth gives you passes. Unless I'm forgetting some other feature, I can't think of another one in which a sold horse affects your account, at least not to this extent. Certainly not in any of the existing trophies that we have. The only one that actually says to breed a horse, even because sold horses don't count for any of these other trophies, the only trophy requirement that says to breed a horse is Yggdrasil. And that's really just by default, not only with him, but for all of these other divines, because you can only be the breeder with these. You can't buy any of these other horses. So, of course, even though you don't technically breed a fairy tale divine, you don't breed any of them to give birth to a new foal. If you win it from an event or a luck item, you're listed as the breeder. That's just by default. But otherwise, for competitions, you don't have to be the breeder of a horse that has entered 200,000 competitions, right? So I am a little bit confused on the reasoning behind this, that to standardize the way the trophies work, we've decided to change the operation. I don't quite understand that because, yeah, none of the other trophies work that way anyway, not as they already exist. Okay, back to the explanation. Let's see, what else changes? The trophy gauges will be changed accordingly. For mine, if you notice on the live server, on the Rosettes Per Horse trophy, I am at 61% towards winning 500 rosettes with the same horse. I must have sold horses, homebred horses, that won rosettes on somebody else's account, because I am at a gold trophy on breeding a horse who won 1,000 rosettes. I'm at 65% towards that. So I got lucky in that I benefited from this, right? Because my trophy went up. And I did gain points. I got a reward for it from the gift gauge. Now, even if your trophy goes down, let's say like all of the horses that you've ever won rosettes with, I can't find the trophy. And again, this is one of the reasons why I still severely dislike this trophy page. You can't find anything at a glance. Let's say all of your horses that you've won rosettes with, they were all purchased. So you end up getting down to 0% on this trophy. It won't actually affect your gift gauge up here. If you're also at 20 out of 100, you're still going to be at 20 out of 100 towards your next gift. None of your previous gifts that you've collected will be taken back. It's only your actual trophy that will change. So that's it for the explanation of this change and how it works. You now have to be the breeder, and sold horses will still count because you are listed as the breeder. Okay, let's get into the issues with this. The first issue I want to talk about is in regards to the trophy as it exists on the live server. I think, and I thought this when the trophy page was first updated 5 months ago, the requirement to max this trophy is too difficult. To max out this trophy, you have to win 5,000 rosettes with the same horse. That is an insane amount, and it is literally impossible to complete on some of the smaller servers because they don't have 5,000 rosettes to be won. Even if they have 5,000 rosettes total on that server, it doesn't matter, because with the way the genetics work on horse, to consistently win rosettes, you can only do so in a single discipline. Yes, there are exceptions to that. You might have a few flukes here and there where, and I'm talking regular horses, of course. Regular horses can really just win rosettes in one discipline. They might have a few flukes, especially if you have friends who can help fill comps for you. They might get a rosette here and there in just one other discipline, but most breeds are not going to be able to do that. This requirement of 5,000 is too high. In fact, if you look at International, which is one of the biggest servers, so, if you want an idea of difficulty, look at a large server. The horse on here with the most rosette wins only has 4,384. I say only because that's still a ways off. That's 700 rosette wins off from 5,000. And this horse is a couple of years old, so this will take a while. How many horses have actually breached the 4,000 mark? Only a dozen. I personally think that the 5,000 should be lowered. I think 3,000 I think 3,000 is doable, even though it looks like there are how many? 43 horses that have won 3,000 rosettes. But it is doable because I do appreciate a challenge. I get that, not everything is supposed to be easy. The trophies aren't supposed to be won overnight. I'm okay with that. I've been working on improving my general ranking for the past year, and I've gone up just 400 slots. I say just 400 because it doesn't sound like a lot, but when you start getting up higher in the ranking, I'm in the 400s right now, so I guess it would be top 500, right? The points that every player has, their score, are much further apart. So while in the lower ranks, like the thousands or whatever, 30,000 points daily could easily surpass 10 players every single day. Well, it's going to take you a few days to surpass the next player if that player is now 100,000 points ahead of you. So I don't mind a long-term goal. I still like working on that goal, and I don't mind if it takes me a long time, but this one is just supremely difficult, and like I said, it's literally impossible on some of the smaller servers. Please lower lower this particular goal. That's issue number 1. It's too high, and now you have the added difficulty of it has to be with the horse that you bred. Okay, there you go. Issue number 2. It now has to be with the horse that you've bred. It is moving the goalposts, as a lot of players have pointed out, of an already existing trophy. It would not have been so bad if this trophy had been added to the ones that we already have instead of replacing one. It's not that it's a third rosette trophy. It's literally replacing this one of winning just rosettes with the same horse, even if you did not breed it. So if you're somebody who did buy a horse 5 months ago or even 5 days ago to work on this trophy, you bought a skiller prep or an already skilled horse, you now can't earn points with this trophy. Sure, you can still win points on the trophy right above it, but I mean, you still, you've been winning points on it with this trophy. Why should all of a sudden now, 5 months later, or 5 days later, however long later, it should be stopped? You spent passes on that horse for this reason. And that really applies to the trophies page update in general. And it's why I'm still quite upset about this update. This is a story for another day, I know. But the goalposts were already moved when this page was updated. And there you go. I don't understand why 5 months later this has changed. I think if they had this trophy, if they implemented it exactly as it is right now, if they added this with the trophy update, it would not be as big of a deal because the whole trophies page was already moving the goalposts, but it's not moving the goalposts again 5 months later. And that's why a lot of players are frustrated with it because their progress now with that horse on this trophy is halted. They need a new horse to work on this trophy. Also, this is kind of issue 2.5 because it bounces off of this previous issue. Those wins, another player, the breeder of that horse, gets those wins. And here you go. This brings up the question of, should the breeder, if they sold the horse, get credit for what the new owner is now doing with it? Personally, I would just say no. Now, I guess you can ask the question of, does the breeder put in a lot of effort to, did the breeder put in a lot of effort for this horse to have the potential to win rosettes? And the answer to that is yes and no, because it just depends on how long that breeder spent working with that horse, that bloodline, how much effort it took to plan that particular breeding. So a couple examples of a lot of effort spent breeding. Top players, top teams, whomever that are at top GP, especially if they've been working on it for, they've increased it by 5,000 GP, or maybe they're even one of those players that started with a 350 GP foundation and they've now brought it up to top GP. That's a lot of effort because that took years to do. And in the cases of some players, who do make a lot of passes selling skillers and skiller preps, well, they could potentially breed dozens of foals. They might have to breed the same mare dozens of times to try to battle that plus or minus 4% random factor. They need that maximum IBS possible, inborn skills possible for that pairing. And then to top it off, they have to apply Aphrodite's tears every single time, because if you want to win rosettes, you're going to need a tiered foal, right? That's an example of a lot of work, a lot of effort. Now, for me personally, even if I don't spend time on breeding multiple generations of a horse, I could still put in a lot of effort. So, for example, this crossbred here. He took a lot of time in planning and picking the parents for him. I did know ahead of time that an appropriate crossbreed for this project to win show jumping rosettes with would be a KWPN dominant KWPN cell crossbred, because the KWPNs have show jumping comps or show jumping rosettes for that breed. And with the cell in there, I have top speed and jumping. If you use, the high, really high GP or whatever. And even though I knew the breed combo that could win me rosettes, I still had to spend a few days stalking the sale, stalking the covers, and running calculations until I had access to high enough parents that would get me the top jump and speed. And finally, those horses showed up, and when I ran the calculations, I saw, okay, well, by the time I have him skilled, I'll have number 1 speed and jumping skills for KWPNs, and that means he could beat all of the purebred KWPNs, thanks to that cell in his bloodline. That took a lot of effort, and I also I did buy the dam. I got lucky because I saw that the public covers would get me the GP that I needed, so I only had to buy the dam and blup her. There have been some cases where I had to buy both the sire and the dam because public covers was lower than sales, but I did have to blup the dam. So, and then of course I skilled him up myself. So this is also an example of I only spent 1 generation on him, but it did take a lot of effort. Now, on the flip side, okay, here's an example of little effort. There have been some where I did just go in the sales and I bought a mare. Maybe I blupped her. Maybe she was already blupped, tiered her, bred the foal, and then the foal won a couple of rosettes. That one didn't take a lot of effort, right? Like that one might have just been luck, and sometimes it depends on the breed. And then, of course, you get into who actually does deserve the most credit? What's the hardest part in producing a rosette winner? Is it the breeding of the foal? Is it the actual skilling of the foal? I will say that I absolutely hate the process of skilling. I saved up all of the 20 pieces of clouds for him. I didn't feel like wasting the, 500 passes on a piece of cloud pack. So I had to save up the 20 pieces of cloud. And then for me, the actual process of skilling takes about 30 minutes to 45 minutes because I get really bored. I have to take a few breaks. Some other players can do it faster. Skilling's a lot of work too. And then entering and winning rosette sounds easy, but to win 5,000 of them, even just to win 1,000 with the same horse, you still have to stock the competitions over however amount of time in order to find those rosettes and win them. Who deserves the most credit here? All of those are difficult depending on who you ask, depending on your gameplay style, depending on your strengths and weaknesses in the game. And therefore, to me, I think it's just easier to not have sold horses count. So there you go. Issue number 3, getting into the next issue, is just that I really don't think sold horses should count, not for the trophies, at least. And really, like I said, I can't really think of any other instance where a sold horse should count. If anybody else can, let me know. I'm curious to hear your thoughts about that, but I just don't think sold horses should count here because you're the one entering the competitions with it. I think it's just easiest to say that that's the player, the fairest to say that that's the player who gets it because it's just on your account, right? What you do with it is what matters. Otherwise you're having to track, well, who actually bred it? Well, that's listed on the horse, but then, well, if you think skilling it is harder, That's not tracked in the horse's statistics or anything. I just think you're opening up a can of worms with letting sold horses count. And then it makes it even worse when the goalposts are moved. You know, that you're the one that's been working on it, and then all of a sudden the breeder now gets credit. So I think those are all the issues that I have with it that I can think of for the moment, and a lot of those are issues brought up by other players too. So here are suggestions or solutions to making this better. Solution number one, and we're going back to issue number one, is just lower the amount of rosette wins required to max this trophy. 5,000 is just too much with the same horse. Lower it, at least on international. I think 3,000 would be fair enough. If you wanted to go lower, I would be happy with that too. So there is solution number one. Lower the amount of rosettes required. Solution number two is breeding. Be the breeder of the horse that has won rosettes. That's a fair challenge. You know, I think that's doable if the amount of wins is lowered, but add it as a brand new trophy. Add it as a third trophy. Don't just replace one that we've already been working on. Leave that one as is. Add the champion breeder right below the Rosettes Per Horse. So now that we have 3 rosette trophies to work on, that would be fair. Another solution too is that if the amount has to be quite high, maybe it should just be the breeder of horses, plural, who have won all of these rosettes. It doesn't have to just be with a single horse, right? That way you have 5 horses you could work with, or 10 horses, or however many, you know, kind of similar to this one. It's just win 1,000 rosettes in general. This one, it could be with one horse, or it could be just among all of the horses that are on your account. And solution 4 is just don't let sold horses affect your account. I just don't think they should, and I've explained all of my reasonings for this. Now, my suggestion for completing this champion breeder trophy, if it gets implemented, or even just for the Rosettes Per Horse trophy, if it stays as it is, if you're having a problem trying to get a bunch of rosettes with the same horse, I would suggest using a water divine horse like Ocean or the mythological horse Goalposts. Goalposts would be the easiest because his perk is that each time the horse enters a competition with rosettes in it, Goalposts wins a rosette when the competition starts, even if it doesn't finish first, provided it did not win any rosette in this competition before. I would recommend getting him and using him because, of course, if you win him, you're the breeder. He cannot be sold. So you'll be the breeder. He would count. That would be easy. As long as you enter a rosette comp, you're guaranteed to get the rosette, even if he places dead last. Your other option, Ocean, a water divine. His skills increase a little bit daily, and they are redistributed differently daily, which means you have multiple different competitions that you can enter. And that also applies, of course, to Goalposts, because his skills don't matter. If you can place last and still get it, it doesn't matter. But with Ocean, you would have to get first with him. And you would also, you know, it would be best also if you had the switch specialty regardless of age, because there are some days like today he was better. What did I enter him in today? Barrels? Did he win style racing? Oh, he got third. Okay, well, that's going to be an issue that I'll talk about in a second. So the problem with like Ocean, for example, or even Goalposts, is that using a divine will take you much longer to complete this trophy versus a non-divine horse, because you can only enter 1 open comp per day. You will have to enter an open comp to win a rosette, because divine only competitions, the way that their prestige works, they just won't be able to offer rosettes. So you'll have to open that open comp, but it's just only 1 a day that you can enter. And therefore, like a day like today where my Ocean lost, he did not win the rosette. That's 1 extra day that I'll have to spend getting a rosette. It's going to take me at least 1 day longer now. So if you entered every single day, won that rosette every single day, like with Goalposts, it would take you 5,000 days. And then the fact now that I lost with him, it would take me 5,001. More than that even, because, there've been a few other days where he lost too. But that would be my suggestion for the trophy as it is. This is who I've been working on it with Ocean, because even Cast Iron, that horse that I just showed you a little bit ago, he's only gotten 242 rosettes. Yeah, because by now his skills are outdated. And yes, eventually over time, the top horses won't be able to see even the lowest difficulty rosettes, but that will still take a while, because with the way that the difficulty, like the range, look at that. For my pleasure competition, you can have between 6,300 skills in trot and 12,000 skills in trot to see it. And no, regular horses are not up to 12,000 skills. I think they're probably at 7,000, 8,000 maybe, but still, that's like a 2,000 skill difference. If I had a horse at the bottom end that can enter this, well, a top horse can still see it and will crush mine. So, yeah, your lower, your outdated skillers can still win rosettes occasionally, but you'd have to use fillers pretty much to help with that. Unless you just get lucky and you only enter comps that have just one entry left, and you compare the skills of the other horses, and maybe you're lucky and all of those horses already registered have lower skills than yours. So that would be my suggestion for that. Oh, there is one other issue that I forgot to talk about, so I want to backtrack a little bit. The difficulty of breeding. Now, you have to be the breeder of a horse who won. Currently, it's 5,000 is the max. The difficulty with having to be the breeder of a single horse who won 5,000 rosettes now is extremely difficult, because just with the way the game works, you need to be on a top team in order to get access to top GP. No, that is not a dig. I'm not making a dig at anybody. It's just the way that the game is set up. Sort of like, in order to win the Grand Prix, you have to enter specific breeds, just with the way the genetic distribution works. There are just a handful of breeds, such as, I'm just going to use Gallop as an example because I know the breeds that can win rosettes in that one. A thoroughbred dominates the Grand Prix every week just because the way their skills are distributed. So a lot of players, most of the players don't have access to the GP needed to breed a horse, right? Because the teams, understandably, don't want to sell their top GP breeding stock, because otherwise competitive teams can buy that stock, then they can breed it to their own horses, and then they can catch up with the GP. But they will sell geldings because they don't have to worry about anybody bouncing off from their breeding stock. They'll sell the geldings, and that's what a lot of players will do if they do want to win rosettes or the Grand Prix or whatever. They will buy gelded skiller preps or geldings that are already skilled. So this is just an even added difficulty for a lot of players, and that is exactly why I choose crossbreds to win rosettes with, because you don't necessarily need, like for Cast Iron, for example, his parents were not the top GP of the cells and the KWPNs, but just with the way the crossbreeding works with that particular combination, I didn't have to have access to top GP. What I bought in the sales and used in public covers was enough. So I guess here also brings up another issue off of that I also forgot to talk about, and that is, will teams still be able to sell their geldings? Will players in general still be able to sell skilled horses or skiller preps? And the answer to that, and it varies from player to player, but yes, of course, because the incentive to buy horses is still there. You can still purchase horses to win rosettes in general. You can win rosettes and have them count for this trophy, for the monthly rosettes ranking. They're not purchased skillers, purchased skiller preps are not going to be rendered completely useless. It'll just be useless for the specific trophy. So there we go. I think now I have covered everything. If anybody has any other thoughts to add about this change, do you like this? Do you dislike it? I am curious to hear how many of you, if you're on preprod right now, Did your progress on this trophy change? Did it change for the better or change for the worse? I'm curious to hear about that. I should have asked everybody on pre-prod. I don't think anybody has stated how their trophy progress changed, or they didn't state actual stats. There were some players that, the horse they were working on with this trophy, they had a lot of rosettes racked up with it, and it was a bought horse. So obviously their trophy is going to go down. And to me, that would just be absolutely crushing. So I am curious to hear everybody's thoughts, maybe any suggestions you have towards making this trophy better. I did ask too, in the topic where it's being discussed on pre-prod, whether any other trophies will be changed to you have to be the breeder, or maybe it'll just be new trophies coming will state that you have to be the breeder. I really hope that none of the other trophies will change. Let's not move the goalposts any more than they've already been moved. So thank you all so much for joining me today, and I hope to talk to you soon. Bye.